Your top-load washing machine cleans your clothes every week, but who's cleaning the machine? If you've ever pulled out a fresh load and caught a faint smell that wasn't quite right, the machine itself is probably the answer. It's full of water and soap, so how does it end up dirty? Here's what's actually happening inside that drum, and once you see it, the whole thing clicks. Every time you run a load, you're filling that tub with water, detergent, and fabric softener. The machine agitates, the clothes get clean, and then it drains. Straightforward enough. But here's the part most people don't think about. Not all of that soap actually leaves with the water. A thin film of detergent residue clings to the drum walls, the agitator, and the underside of the lid rim. One cycle's worth? Barely noticeable. But cycle after cycle, week after week, that residue layers up. It's not dramatic, it's gradual, which is exactly why it sneaks up on you. Top loaders have a specific relationship with this problem, and it comes down to how they fill. The drum floods with water from the bottom up, and the water line sits at a certain height throughout the wash. When that water drains, it often leaves a faint ring, similar to the kind you'd see inside a vase that's been holding flowers for a week. The residue doesn't drain away cleanly because it's already bonded to the surface above the water line. Front loaders tumble clothes through a small, shallow pool of water at the base of the drum, lifting and dropping clothes through it repeatedly. So build-up patterns differ from a top loader's fill and soak design. But a top loader's fill and soak design creates that distinct ring zone where build-up concentrates. Then there's hard water. Depending on where you live, your tap water carries dissolved minerals, mostly calcium and magnesium. And those minerals don't just rinse away. They bond to surfaces over time, leaving a chalky white or off-white film on the drum and agitator. You've probably seen the same thing on a shower head or the inside of a kettle. The washing machine is dealing with the exact same process, just in a bigger vessel, running on a regular schedule. The minerals and the soap residue don't stay separate either. They combine into a sticky, stubborn layer that plain water alone won't shift. And then the drum closes. That's the third piece of the puzzle. After a cycle ends, the inside of your machine is warm and wet. If the lid goes down, which it usually does because that's just where lids go, that moisture has nowhere to escape. Think of it like sealing a damp towel in a bag. The humidity lingers, the surfaces stay wet far longer than they should, and that's the exact environment where odor-causing buildup gets comfortable. The smell you notice isn't coming from your detergent. It's coming from what's been sitting in that damp, enclosed space between washes. Here's a useful way to think about the whole thing. Imagine you drink coffee from the same mug every day, but you only ever rinse it quickly and put the lid back on while it's still wet. After a week, that mug isn't going to smell like fresh coffee anymore. The machine is working the same way. It's processing something, leaving a trace of it behind each time, and never fully drying out between uses. That's not a design flaw. That's just what happens when any enclosed, regularly used vessel doesn't get a proper clean. None of this means your machine is broken, and it doesn't mean you've been doing laundry wrong. It's simply what happens over time when a machine that handles soap, water, and minerals every few days is left to manage itself. The design creates the conditions create the buildup. Once you understand that chain, residue accumulates, minerals bond, humidity lingers. The approaches for keeping the machine cleaner stop feeling like arbitrary maintenance tasks and start making complete, logical sense. Does any of this sound familiar? Maybe that faint smell, or the chalky film you've noticed on the agitator? Drop your answer in the comments below. Now let's get into what you can actually do about it. Now that you understand why the buildup happens, the residue layering, the minerals bonding, the humidity sitting in a closed drum between washes, the approaches for dealing with it follow naturally from those exact causes. Start with heat. Periodically running a hot water cycle through an empty machine with a cleaning agent added is one of the most effective ways to address what's been accumulating in there. The reason heat matters comes directly from what Section 1 explained. Soap residue and mineral deposits are stubborn, partly because cold and warm water don't fully dissolve them. Hot water changes that equation. It breaks down the residue more thoroughly, loosens the mineral film from the drum walls and agitator, and gives the cleaning agent something to work with, rather than just sloshing around the surface. You don't need to do this constantly. The point is simply that occasional, intentional heat is doing something your regular wash cycles aren't. The second thing worth understanding is the relationship between detergent quantity and buildup. More soap doesn't produce cleaner clothes, it produces more residue. The drum can only rinse away so much during a drain cycle, and when you consistently use more detergent than the load actually needs, the excess is what stays behind on those surfaces. This is one of the main contributors to the layering described earlier, and once you see it that way, the instinct to add a little extra just to be safe starts to feel counterproductive. The machine isn't a bigger is better situation. It's more like seasoning food. There's a point where adding more stops helping and starts leaving something you didn't want there. Then there's the lid. After a cycle finishes, the inside of your machine is warm and damp, and if the lid closes, that moisture has nowhere to go. You already know this. It's the same damp towel in a bag dynamic that creates the odor conditions described earlier. The simplest way to interrupt that is to leave the lid open after a wash. Not forever, not for any precise amount of time, just long enough for the drum to breathe and the moisture to escape rather than settle. Think of it the same way you'd handle a gym bag after a workout. You wouldn't zip it shut while everything inside is still wet and then wonder why it smells strange by morning. The machine responds to the same logic. Let it air out, and you're cutting off the environment that odor-causing buildup needs to get comfortable. Finally, the surfaces themselves occasionally need direct attention. The drum walls, the agitator, and especially the area just under the lid rim are where residue and mineral deposits visibly collect over time. That's the ring zone, the same geography Section 1 mapped out. Periodically wiping those surfaces down addresses what the water-based cycles can't fully reach on their own. It's not about scrubbing aggressively, it's just about not leaving those surfaces entirely to self-manage, because as the buildup evidence shows, they don't. Put all four of these together and a clear picture emerges. The hot cycle handles what's already bonded to the surfaces. Watching your detergent quantity slows the rate at which new residue forms. Leaving the lid open after washes interrupts the humidity cycle before it has a chance to settle. And the occasional wipe down catches what the water can't. None of these are arbitrary rules. Each one is a direct response to a specific cause that's already been named. Your machine does a genuinely better job when it isn't fighting its own accumulated grime. The clothes come out cleaner, the smell goes away, and the machine runs the way it was designed to. Now you have the full picture, why it happens, and what generally helps. Subscribe for more home care explainers and check out the next video for more ways to get more from your appliances.